You are 63 years old. You have worked for 41 years. You did everything right. You saved 15% of your paycheck. You maxed out your 401k when you could. You lived below your means. You drove the same car for 12 years. You skipped the fancy vacations. You played by all the rules they told you would lead to freedom. And now you are sitting at your kitchen table with a calculator and a sick feeling in your stomach. Because the numbers do not work. Your retirement account has $203,000 in it. Social Security will pay you $1,900 a month if you claim now. Your mortgage still has 8 years left. Your property taxes went up again. Your health insurance before Medicare kicks in will cost you $900 a month. And you just found out your daughter needs help with her kids because childcare costs more than her rent. You thought you would be done by now. You thought you would wake up on a Monday morning and not have to go anywhere. You thought you would finally have time to do the things you put off for decades. Instead, you are updating your resume. This is not what retirement was supposed to look like. But for millions of Americans, this is exactly what it looks like. Because the retirement your parents had does not exist anymore. It died quietly over the past 30 years while everyone was too busy working to notice. And the people who designed the system knew it would die. They wanted it to die, because a workforce that cannot afford to stop working is a workforce that cannot afford to say no. The numbers tell a story that nobody wants to hear. In 2024, almost 20% of Americans 65 and older are still working. That is double the rate from 1987. The number of employed Americans 65 and older has exploded by more than 33% between 2015 and 2024. Nearly 40% of workers over 65 are working part-time, which is more than twice the rate of workers between 55 and 64. This is not a blip. This is not a trend. This is the new permanent reality. And here is what makes it worse. Most people are not choosing this. They are being forced into it. More than half of all workers over 50 in long-term full-time positions lost their jobs involuntarily. 56% were laid off or pushed out. Another 15% reported that conditions deteriorated so badly that they had no choice but to leave. By 2014, 55% of people said they were at least partially forced into retirement, up from 33% in 1998. So when you see someone in their late 60s working at the grocery store or driving for a rideshare company, understand this: that is not someone who loves their job so much they cannot bear to leave it. That is someone who cannot afford to stop. The system is not broken. The system is working exactly as designed. It is designed to extract maximum value from you for as long as physically possible. And then when you can no longer work, it is designed to provide you with just enough to keep you from starving, but not enough to live with dignity. Let me show you how deep this goes. The average retirement savings for Americans in their early 60s is somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000. The median is even lower. $185,000 for people aged 55 to 64, $200,000 for people aged 65 to 74. Now let me put that in context. Americans believe they need $1.26 million to retire comfortably. That is the number people say they need. Not $1.26 million to live like royalty. $1.26 million to retire comfortably. The gap between what people have and what they need is not a gap. It is a canyon. It is a mathematical impossibility. If you retire at 65 with $200,000 and you live until 85, that is 20 years. 200,000 divided by 20 is $10,000 per year. Add Social Security at roughly $24,000 per year, and you are looking at $34,000 annually. That is $2,800 per month to cover housing, food, healthcare, transportation, insurance, property taxes, utilities, and everything else. And remember, that assumes your money sits in a pile and earns nothing. It assumes inflation does not exist. It assumes you never have a medical emergency. It assumes your car never breaks down. It assumes your roof never leaks. It assumes you never want to see your grandchildren who live 2 states away. This is not retirement. This is poverty with a different name. But wait, it gets worse. 54% of American households have $0 saved for retirement. Zero, not a small amount. Not a little bit tucked away in an old 401k. Nothing. And of the people who are saving, only 31% think they are on track. That number was 40% just 2 years ago. Confidence is collapsing because people are finally doing the math and realizing it does not work. 67% of Americans between 50 and 74 do not even have a formal retirement plan. They are just hoping it works out somehow. They are operating on vibes and prayers. And this is where the cruelty of the system really shows itself. Because the government knows all of this, employers know all of this, the financial industry knows all of this, and their solution is not to fix the problem. Their solution is to convince you to work longer. Social Security is the perfect example. If you claim Social Security at 62, you get 70% of your full benefit. If you wait until 67, you get 100%. If you wait until 70, you get 124%. The difference between claiming at 62 versus 70 is 76% more money every month for the rest of your life. That sounds like a choice, but it is not a choice when you cannot afford to wait. It is a trap. The system is set up to punish you for being poor. If you are wealthy enough to delay Social Security, you get rewarded with higher lifetime benefits. If you are broke and need the money now, you get locked into permanent poverty. The average Social Security check at age 62 is $1,341 per month. At age 70, it is $2,148. That is an $807 difference every single month. But here is the thing. If you have no savings and no income, you cannot wait. You have to take it early. And once you take it early, you are stuck with that reduced amount forever. You have just locked yourself into financial struggle for the next 25 years. This is not a bug. This is a feature. The system is designed to keep desperate people desperate. Now let me tell you about the thing nobody wants to admit. The thing that makes all of this even more vicious. Longevity. People are living longer. Way longer. A retirement that used to last 12 to 15 years now lasts 25 to 30 years. The average life expectancy has increased significantly. Men are living into their mid-80s. Women are pushing close to 90. That extra decade or two of life is beautiful. It is a gift, but it is a gift that costs money. A lot of money. Healthcare costs rise as you age. Long-term care is obscenely expensive. Nursing homes can cost $7,000 to $10,000 per month. Even assisted living runs $3,000 to $5,000 per month. If you need memory care, add another $2,000. And Medicare does not cover most of it. So that $200,000 in savings, it can disappear in 2 years if you need serious care. Maybe 3 if you are lucky. And then what? You become a burden on your kids who are also struggling, or you go on Medicaid after you have burned through everything. The math is brutal. You need your money to last 30 years. You need it to keep up with inflation. You need it to cover healthcare costs that will only increase. You need it to survive market downturns. And you need to do all of this while living on a fixed income that barely covered your needs when you started. It is not possible. Not for most people. Not with the savings rates we have. Not with the wages people earn. Not with the cost of living we face. And this is where phased retirement enters the picture. This is where the bridge job becomes your new reality. Phased retirement sounds nice. It sounds voluntary. It sounds like a choice. Work part-time. Ease into retirement. Keep one foot in the workforce while enjoying more freedom. Consultants and HR departments talk about it like it is a gift, a benefit, a modern solution for the modern worker. But let me tell you what phased retirement actually is. It is your employer convincing you to work for less money so they do not have to pay your full salary and benefits anymore. It is you realizing you cannot afford to fully retire, so you take whatever part-time scraps you can get. It is turning your last working years into a desperate scramble to delay the inevitable. Between 1/3 and 1/2 of American workers now take a bridge job before fully exiting the workforce. 1/3 to 1/2. That means the majority of people do not retire the way they imagined. They do not walk out on Friday and wake up retired on Monday. They stumble through a series of part-time gigs and reduced hours and side hustles trying to make the numbers work. 19% of workers over 50 already consider themselves semi-retired, not retired. Semi-retired, which is a fancy way of saying they are still working because they have to, but they are pretending it is a choice. And here is the sickest part. The government and employers are incentivizing this. They are building the system to keep you working as long as possible. Social Security full retirement age used to be 65. Then they raised it to 67. The delayed retirement credits reward you for waiting until 70. Tax policy favors people who keep earning. Medicare does not kick in until 65, which traps people in expensive private insurance or forces them to stay at jobs they hate just for the benefits. Every single policy is designed to keep you in the workforce. Every incentive points toward working longer. Every rule punishes early exit. This is not accidental. This is the plan. Because a workforce that cannot retire is a workforce that cannot make demands. You cannot negotiate for better pay if you are terrified of losing your job at 62. You cannot push back on bad management if you need to make it just 3 more years. You cannot advocate for yourself if retirement is not actually an option. They want you to work forever because desperation is profitable. Desperation keeps wages low. Desperation keeps people compliant. Desperation means you will accept conditions you would have walked away from 30 years ago. And the employers benefit massively from this. They get experienced workers at discount prices. They get institutional knowledge without paying full salaries. They get people who are too tired and too scared to leave. And when those people finally do leave, there is another wave of desperate older workers right behind them willing to take whatever is offered. So what do you actually do? What is the real answer here? First, you accept the reality. The retirement your parents had is gone. It is not coming back. You are not going to work until 65 and then spend 20 years on the golf course. That is not your future. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can plan for what is actually going to happen. Second, you make phased retirement work for you instead of against you. If you are going to work longer anyway, you need to control the terms. That means finding part-time work that does not destroy your body or your mind. That means setting boundaries. That means being strategic about when and how you reduce hours. If you can negotiate a consulting arrangement or part-time role with your current employer, do it on your terms. Lock in the flexibility. Protect your health care. Get it in writing. Third, you delay Social Security as long as you possibly can. This is maybe the single most important financial decision you will make. Every year you wait from 62 to 70 is an 8% increase in your benefit. That compounds. If you can cover your expenses with part-time work and let your Social Security grow, you are building a larger income floor for the rest of your life. That income is inflation adjusted and guaranteed. It is the closest thing you have to a pension. Maximize it. Fourth, use your low-earning years strategically. If you are working part-time in your 60s, your income is probably lower than it has been in decades. This is your window for Roth conversions. This is your window for tax loss harvesting. This is your window for realizing capital gains at 0%. Most people miss this opportunity because they are not thinking about taxes. But if you play this right, you can dramatically reduce your lifetime tax burden and keep more of your money. Fifth, do not touch your investments if you can possibly avoid it. This is critical. If you can live on part-time income and Social Security, your portfolio gets to keep growing. Every year you do not withdraw is another year of compounding. Every year you avoid sequence of returns risk is another year your plan stays alive. A portfolio that has 5 extra years to grow can mean the difference between running out of money at 78 versus having enough to last until 90. Sixth, get obsessive about healthcare. This is the variable that can destroy everything. You need a plan for the gap between retirement and Medicare. You need a plan for long-term care. You need to understand what Medicare does and does not cover. You need to think about health savings accounts. You need to consider long-term care insurance before you are too old to qualify. Healthcare is the monster hiding in every retirement plan. You cannot ignore it. And finally, you need to reframe what retirement means. It does not mean never working again. It means having enough money that work becomes optional. It means having the freedom to say no. It means doing things on your terms instead of someone else's terms. If you can get to a place where you work because you want to, rather than because you have to, you have won. That is the goal, not complete idleness, control. Because here is the truth. The system is rigged, but you are not powerless. You cannot change the fact that pensions disappeared. You cannot change the fact that Social Security is inadequate. You cannot change the fact that healthcare is insanely expensive, but you can change how you respond to it. You can stop pretending that retirement at 65 is realistic and start planning for what actually happens. You can stop hoping your savings will magically be enough and start being honest about the numbers. You can stop waiting for someone to save you and start building your own plan. The death of traditional retirement is not fair. It is not right. It is not what you were promised. But it is what you have, and the only question that matters now is what you are going to do about it. Stop waiting for permission to retire. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for the system to work the way it was supposed to. It is not going to happen. Start building the exit strategy that actually fits your reality. Start making the hard decisions now instead of being forced into them later. Start treating the next 10 years like the most important financial decade of your life, because it is. The system wants you to work until you drop. You do not have to give them what they want, but you do have to be smarter than they expect. You have to be more strategic. You have to be willing to do what most people will not do. And if you do that, you might actually get out. Not the way you imagined, but out. That is the game. That is the reality. Now go play it better than everyone else.